What's up, dudes? Max here with an update for what's going on in the Street Fighter V beta and some impressions of the time that I had with the game. For you guys that don't know, the Street Fighter V beta was going for about 3 days, and only around one of those days was it really functional, and not even very much for the majority of people that were trying to play it. The third day on Saturday was when I got the most play time, but the other 2 days were pretty much full of about 20 hours trying to log in and getting nothing but error codes almost the entire day. I got one match in the first 2 days and about 10 to 15 complete matches, and despite accusations of me being a part of the Illuminati during that time frame, we looked at a loading screen that day for 7 hours. Thanks a lot, Gil. But in the few matches we did have, I got to play a variety of characters, and I also got some time to really mess around with the netcode and play people from across the world. This was mostly limited to American players, but they had a lot of people playing from other countries, so you can actually test out the net play, but I don't think it's actually ready for it just yet. Just so you guys can get an update on what's going on with this game, it's running on something called the Kagemusha netcode. What it kind of boils down to is a custom set of rollback netcode that you might be familiar from many other games that have been using it for a long time, including ones from Capcom like Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition, Marvel vs. Capcom Origins, and Darkstalkers Resurrection. All these games had fantastic netcode. However, to have good netcode, you need to sacrifice graphics or something else because it does take a lot of CPU power, and it does look like that's what's going on with Street Fighter V right now, as the backgrounds aren't incredible looking. They're only okay at the moment, and I do think they'll get better as the development of the game continues. But let's talk about the most important thing possible with Street Fighter V. How good does it play online? Is it as good as like Killer Instinct, which is the huge comparison factor right now? And I'll tell you guys, at the moment, if we want to compare this to something like Ultra Street Fighter 4 on PC, which is the best net play version of Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5 does indeed run better. What you want from net play that actually can make a more consistent online experience for your fighting game is to take away something called input delay. That's when you press a button, and due to lag, the button actually doesn't appear on screen for quite some time, several frames later. The whole point of rollback netcode is to eliminate as much as that time as possible to preserve the core of the fighting game that you can actually play in an offline and online environment where it's mostly the same. And Street Fighter V is doing a pretty dang good job. However, it's not perfect. There's a lot of stuttering, there is issues with rollback net play, it takes a lot of finesse and finagling. I can't really go into the deep details of this because it's very complex and complicated because you have to deal with things like rollbacks and eventually desyncs, but the game is doing a pretty good job at the moment. Even though it's not perfect by any means, I'd say the most stable base of Street Fighter 4 is like the base of how you have to have a game play online right now, and it is definitely better than that. It's not quite as good as Street Fighter Cross Tekken yet, but please understand, this is the very first version of Street Fighter V that's playable with net play to the public, even though they didn't nearly have as many people play as they wanted. The thing that's happening right now is that they took the game down completely. The servers are no longer available. The estimated time that the game was going to be playable for its first run has been canceled, and they're going to delay that first run again. So they're going to have a whole nother period where we can play the game for about 5 or 6 days. I actually have a feeling that this isn't going to be for a while. It might not be for another week or two, but the thing they're actively trying to do, I believe, is to get more server space. That was the big problem, actually getting people into the game to even try, and even the moments where I was able to get in and it's like, we made it in, we got past the error screen, we were left looking at training room for a long time, and that time we never got match made with anybody else, so the actual amount of matches we got wasn't a very high amount, and it was pretty similar to many other people that I was playing with around the Southern California and Northern California region. I think they were trying to do something where they were like geo-targeting certain areas to play the game, because a lot of the guys around my region were able to get a lot of matches in on Saturday before it closed shop on Sunday. Especially very late Saturday night, after I was done streaming, I got a lot of matches very fast, and I was noticing how other people that were streaming were actually getting games. All of a sudden, after about 30 attempts of logging in, I got in, and 15 minutes before the game shut down, I actually got more matches than I had in the past 7 hours. So, it is working sometimes, they are working on it, and right now they're probably doing their best to make sure the next time the game does go live, they'll have the server space to accommodate as many people as possible. But right now, the netcode is pretty good. I'm not going to say it's Killer Instinct level by any means, because it hasn't actually reached that far yet, I've had games in KI where I've played people across, like, all the way to Australia, all the way to the UK, where it had less stuttering than some of the stuff I've run into in Street Fighter V, but understand, guys, it's early. That's the whole point of this beta test, and is actually one of the first open beta tests for a fighting game, especially one as big as this one, almost ever. So the Capcom folks are taking this extremely seriously, which is all that I could ask for, because that's the thing that's going to keep me invested in Street Fighter V. And I'll tell you right now, from those few matches, I say about half my matches were fantastic, and the other half were pretty stuttery, and some of them were really stuttery and really hard to play, where the screen was jittering around all over the place. That's a natural thing that happens with bad ping and rollback netcode. You can't really fix that. All you can do is make sure your internet connection is open and ready, and you're not hogging your upload and everything like that. That is still going to affect how things work, but Street Fighter V is definitely in the right direction, and I think the next time we're able to play the game, which is going to be a repeat of this beta, maybe we'll see 2 other characters that are actually playable. There's a chance we might get Ken or Nikali. I definitely hope so. But at the same time, during this one, I had a ton of fun playing Nash. I had a lot of fun playing Ryu. I actually am starting to like Ryu a lot more the more I'm playing him. And Cammy was an absolute blast as well, so there are a few characters I'm really enjoying in this beta, and I have more matches for you guys that'll be coming up later this week. As always, dudes, thank you very much for watching. I'll be starting up an online Warrior series for the Street Fighter V matches I did have, and we'll do some play-by-play commentary for the game, for the characters, so we can actually go over kind of how Street Fighter's played, because, I only managed to lose a couple of games, and one of them was to Combo Fiend, which you're watching right now, so there's a lot to learn with Street Fighter V that is very similar to older Street Fighter games and not as much Street Fighter 4, and the more I've played it, the more I've understood this. As always, guys, thank you a ton for watching. Stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, let me know. My name is Maximilian, and I'll see you next time. He knew! He knew! He knows all the stress. Oh. But I got food. Fucking Combo Fiend! Oh, shit!